Hello and welcome. My name is Tolola Falasha, and with me is,
Olu Benson.
and welcome to Decrypting Relationships. So, before we go further, we just like to say, as always, that we do this, from a place of passion, reaching out to society, to people out there listening, to our listeners, sharing our experiences. I have over 20 years of experience of marriage, and so does Olu. And what we're doing is sharing our thoughts, sharing our experiences. We're not coming from a place of advisors or certified counselors, but from people just sharing love. Anything to
Yes.
add, Olu?
No, we just did a disclaimer. We're not certified counselors. We're just
Fantastic.
passionate people trying to share our personal truths with people to see if people could be blessed by them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So today's topic, we are going to talk or be talking about supporting one another during third party conflicts.
Yes.
Yes,
And that's
always.
really in the space of people who are already in the discovery sphere stage of their relationship in terms of having agreed to see what will come out of their relationship on a long-term basis. So when you start asking questions and you're trying to understand each other and trying to be supportive of each other, now this is another area of support that we thought tends to be overlooked. Now, how do you make yourself available in the space of support to each other whilst other external factors are causing conflicts with either or both of you in any space of time? So that's the topic we're talking about today. Hopefully we're able to drop a few pointers that help. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, boy meets girl, boy and girl like each other. They've had a few dates and now they're like really taking things seriously and they want to make sure they know where each other stands when it comes to supporting each other with conflicts, right? Third
Yes,
party
sir. You couldn't say it any better. You
conflict.
tried.
So, no, I think it's important because at this stage, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think both parties are thinking, right, I hope he or she, this person that I've decided to go, we used to call it go steady. You know what? I didn't even call it go
on
steady. I
this
think it was a
on this
generation.
trial path.
Yeah, yeah. We're going exclusive. I want to make sure this person's got my back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if I get in any jam, you know, I I'm wondering how he or she will respond. Correct?
Yeah, these are not necessarily tests. So we I want to disabuse people from, oh, I want to test if this person is this is just something that adds just to the good foundation of a relationship. Should your partner be down or feeling conflicted at work or maybe with their parents or with anything they're dealing with, how are you able to broach the topic to say, oh, okay, I'm there for you. If you want to talk about it, let's put our heads together to see what we can do to work through this. So it's not for people to start setting traps for this for their partners to say, okay, I'll see how good you are in supporting me. No, this is just natural things that happen to people, and each person just preparing themselves to say, okay, if I see this person feeling down, or what can I do to lift them out of that state, to bring them into a happier space? Do we share this? Like they say, a problem shared is a problem solved. So that's really where we're coming from. It's in the most positive light and in the most healthy notion to say, supporting each other through any time of conflict or any time of trouble, so to speak.
We've never really tackled that topic of, oh, let me test them and see how they respond. I think that would be
Oh, we'll probably
something for us to really sink our teeth in,
notes to Tolu.
Yeah, I'm actually making some notes
Testing,
now.
testing time. Yeah.
Testing each other in this space. Okay,
Oh
testing
dear.
each other. Okay, yeah, it would be a good topic to discuss, All right,
Mm.
so going back to today's topic. So Olu, what you get the ball rolling, right? So um let,
Yeah,
let, let
I think we already covered the fact that we will be looking to just how can I be there for this person I'm starting to, you know, devote my time to, devote my energy to actually see if something wonderful could come out of this relationship. You want it to be a very rounded relationship whereby you're there for each other emotionally, physically, mentally, financially, name all the angles that you could be there for each other from. We just want to make sure that it's well rounded. So today we are kind of talking about day to day life. You go to work, you had a bad day, you probably had maybe some whatever tough time with your boss or a colleague, and you go home, just you how do you, and maybe I don't know, each person would have different ways of dealing with things like that. Some people enjoy talking and some don't. And it's just a matter of when you spot those things in your spouse, because not everybody goes to work or has a conflict with somebody and they make, they kind of reflect on it or talk about it. But should you be in that privileged position where you notice the difference in your partner's countenance? Maybe you see them after work that day and they're not looking the usual bubbly or whatever personality they've got, and you're thinking, oh, okay, you're looking different today. Is everything okay? How can you be supportive? And so, let's talk about, say, work is something that hopefully everybody will be doing once you're in that, that discovery stage of your relationship. So let's assume your partner went to work and there was just some unpleasantness at work that day, and they got back home feeling very dejected and just drained from whatever. I think we need to be sensitive, because the first thing I'll encourage each person to kind of endeavor to have is your sensitivity to the changes in the countenance of your partner. Because some people are just so blasé. They just don't see that. They don't see whether you're up or down. As long as you're there, it's all about them. And this is where not being selfish also comes into it. You need to stop from time to time to say, oh, are you okay? Let me look at this person. Are they their usual self? Because after a while, you understand your partner's personality. If they're a very bubbly person and suddenly they got back from work and they're suddenly not very talkative, or they don't want to do anything, you're thinking, okay, no, this is not right. Are you okay? Get them to the point where they can start talking to you, ask them questions, and also be sensitive in the way you ask the question. Don't assume you know everything that goes on in their life,
okay.
even though you guys are at that stage. So don't assume, because sometimes saying, oh, is it because of this? Oh, did this happen? Don't suggest things to them. Let them talk. Give them the room to talk. Oh, did your boss annoy you today? Oh, because that could also be an irritant. So it's just understanding how to communicate and just being sensitive to how the other person is feeling.
I just wanted to say something very quickly to interject that I know both of us have been married for so long. You understand
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
we often, just see things in, you've gone to work and you've come back home. But I think at this stage, we're not really endorsing people cohabiting, right? So if
No,
they
I said
are,
if you saw them after work. I
yeah,
was
after
very
work and they
careful
come
to
home,
choose my
right?
word not to say they came back home. I said if you saw them, you're meeting up after work.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah. So just putting it out there, just to make sure it's
yeah.
very clear, we
Mm-hmm.
don't advocate obviously cohabitation before marriage. I know it happens. I know that sometimes people can argue that they don't have a choice, but on this platform, we actually think for the long-term
Mm.
health of the relationship, it's best to actually not cohabit. Anyway,
Yeah,
so.
I'm in support of that too. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Just making it crystal clear. So yeah, absolutely, you're right. We want to make sure that every time we meet up, when we're at this stage of discovery, we are always reading the signs, right? The body language. We can
Mm-hmm.
see the countenance of our spouse. And I think it just shows how much you care if you
Yeah.
then say, you know what, you don't look, you know, like yourself today, or you don't sound yourself today. What's going on? And I guess this
Mm.
is where, like you're saying, how do we approach people? You know, because like you said, some people might like, oh, well, I had a tough day at work, but I really don't want to talk about it. Let's just, you understand, not
Mm-hmm.
do any. Let's not go there for now. Or some people like, oh, I had a really bad time at work, and then maybe they could wait for you to show some kind of interest to see if
Exactly.
you know. So there's two scenarios, you know.
They're more than two, because some people just like to be pampered. So you need to show them that you got their time. You really
Mm,
want to listen. So
mm.
if you say, "Oh, are you okay today?" and say, "Oh, I'm not," and no, your attitude is almost like, "I'm ready to move on to the next topic, next thing to talk about." They're
Yeah,
never going to
absolutely.
open up to you. So it's all about giving, just being there,
Yeah. So let me ask you
patience.
this. Let me ask you this. So let's take one scenario where, you know, one party's asked the other party, so, you know, why you don't look yourself, what's happening? And the other party says, you
Mm,
know what, I had a really rough day at work. I
yeah,
have this particular person at work that picks on me all the time, you know.
yeah.
And say, for example, the other party is like, oh, tell me a little bit more about it. So okay, well, they always pick on me, yeah, there and everywhere, blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
So at this point, Olu, at this point, what would you say would be a good practice in terms of, do you listen and ask questions and probe? Do you take their side and say, how dare they pick on you like that? You know, what would your approach be? I'll be interested for you to share.
I think I'll have to let me put myself in in those
Mhm.
shoes, as the person who's just complained to you that I'm being picked up on. And if I were in those shoes, I wouldn't want you suggesting. Is it because this? Because you know me, you the person asking the question. You probably know a few things, and you probably know a few quirks about me, and you might think maybe I did something or whatever. What I'll expect the person to do would then be, oh, how long has this been going on for? Along those lines, just to get some form of traction on the history of that complaint. Because if I said they're always picking up on me, it means there's a form of a history there. So you
Yep.
need to understand. I'll expect you to try and, okay, how did that start? Is there a particular area that they're picking? Because picking on you could be, maybe you're just the butt of the joke of the office because of something silly you did. It might not be your, so, but when someone tells you, because my psyche is that if someone told you that they're picking up me at work, you naturally assume it's the quality of their work that they're probably picking on them for. It might not necessarily be so. So the person you're talking to might also be a very sensitive person who's probably tired of the joke in the office and say, "Oh, every small thing is always me. It's always Olu that they pick up on, or they pick on rather for something like that." So it would be nice to just get the history of this picking up on, and what area are they picking up or picking on? I keep saying keep picking up, picking on them for. Because if it's the quality of my work, then that becomes a rather different kind of conversation. But if it's just me, to lighten the mood, if it was my husband, I'll probably make a joke of him, because if he told me, oh, for instance, they're picking on me because maybe of the way I dress something, I'll probably go, well, maybe you need to touch up a little or whatever, turn it into something lighthearted. But if he told me they're picking up on him, or picking on him, goodness, tongue twister, picking on him because of his work, then I'll have to be very objective there. I wouldn't just say how dare they, because sometimes you don't know how people behave at work too. You might know this person, but you're not in a work situation with them, so you don't even know how they behave at work. So I'll advise that you try and understand what led to it. Was there something that happened? Was there, any disciplinary action that happened? And then you take it from there. If they are in the wrong, then you need to also be true to them, because the idea is for you to bring out the best in each other. You need to be true to them to try and encourage them if there was anything they could do to probably perform better. But if they're giving you all the facts and you're thinking, oh, that's not fair, then you find a way to say, okay, maybe you need to speak to somebody or speak to whomever is in there to see how you guys can come to an understanding as to why this has to stop. But if your spouse again, if your partner is the one in the wrong, be objective. In as much as you need to be sensitive, be objective enough to let them know they probably need to do better. Or what would you say?
No, I would agree with your thinking. It's always about the questioning. Um, I have fallen into the trap many times in marriage, and I guess even before marriage as well, where if someone I was seeing, came to me with an issue, I'm being maybe picked on or whatever, and I always want to jump in and give advice. But
Okay.
over the years, I have learned that listening is golden, isn't it?
Yeah.
Listen, and then ask the right questions, like you said. Ask the right question. What's the history? What area are they picking on you? What area do you perceive they're picking on you? Because they
Mm-hmm.
might be picking on you on one area, but you might perceive it as a different area. Really
Mm-hmm.
depends. So I think you're absolutely right. It's just really showing them that you're here, listening, I'm going to support you, and then asking the right questions. And I think oftentimes as you do ask the questions, light bulb moments, occur, don't they? For
Sometimes, yeah.
yeah, sometimes. Other times they don't even have to occur, but he or she has just gotten it off their chest, haven't they?
Mm.
And like you said, you can. I really like the idea of trying to lighten the mood sensitively, though, isn't it? Because
Mm.
again, when you understand the person you're talking to, you don't want to trivialize what they're going through, but at the same time, you want to lighten the mood, right?
Yeah,
So I
especially
like I
when you
like
know
that.
especially when you know possibly maybe what the you know having a dig at is actually true. Because if you know your spouse has a funny habit and people are picking on them at work, it's an opportunity for you to say, oh babe, maybe whatever you call each other. Oh, maybe we need to look into that too. And just turn it into a joke so that oh, okay, you know, fine. So it's not all about everything is heavy. Everything doesn't have to
Mm,
be heavy at all times. But the underlying thing is we need to be true to each other, because if you notice, and that's why I was very careful to use the word objective.
mm.
The fact that you're falling in love with somebody doesn't necessarily mean they're right all the time. And don't cultivate the habit of thinking they're always right, because when you guys then get into marriage and you've encouraged them to believe that every time they told you their version of a story, they were always right. When you start living with them and you start seeing the true them and you realize, maybe there was a bit of exaggeration, some of the stories, and you start seeing those things, it becomes a problem for you to start correcting them. Because then it's almost like, oh, now we're married. You're not as supportive as you were. So please be objective in the way you support them
Yeah.
when you guys are still discovering each other.
You said something quite interesting there. If, for example, like you said, for example, if the topic of discussion was something that was apparent to everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Aha. Now, you said you could lighten the play, maybe just use it as a joke.
Somehow.
But I think, me personally, I have a
Mm.
slightly different approach. I think it's important to be very direct that, you
Yeah.
know what? This thing here, direct but kind, because I don't know, me personally, I don't know if that humor approach
Mm.
is, works for me as a person, you know.
Yeah, the obviously different approach. And the reason I just sorry to cut in, the reason
No,
I
no,
said
no.
that is that I've noticed that when people are fuming about something that they're frustrated about, that is not when they really want to hear your candid truth, because they're still very sensitive and very touchy.
Yeah, but they
The
don't always
fact that
feel
you
it's
keep
not
that
always.
lightness to it is almost like, I agree with the other party, but I'm not blaming you yet.
Yeah, but few no, people don't always fume. And I think that, again, when you read the situation, obviously if they're fuming, you're not going to be direct. But then again, why not? If you need, I think personally that, you know, if someone needs to hear the truth about something,
Mm.
especially if it's very apparent,
Mm.
me personally, I just think be kind, be gentle, but direct. I say, dude, or madam, or whatever, babe, whatever, like
Mm.
you say, you know, um, or you know what? Don't bring it up at that point. You know what I mean? But I personally think it's, the approach is to be direct. If it's not a good time to be direct, leave it for another time when maybe you're going swimming or having a picnic or something.
Mm,
I say, yeah, remember we had that discussion. Yeah, but I think me personally, my approach is always like
mm.
very gentle but direct.
Not everything. I didn't mean be jokey about everything, because that's why
Mm,
I said, if what they're saying, because for instance, if it's the quality of their work,
yeah.
and you know the person you're probably talking to is a lazy so and so, you have to find a way. Yeah, then you won't joke about, oh, but you're a lazy person. I'm talking something really lighthearted. Maybe they're not, they don't dress really well, or you're only telling them this colors that you wear or the way you combine this thing, and it says they pick on him because or her because of a fashion sense. You could make a joke of that, because that is not it's not a, what do I want to put it? It is not a life or do or die kind of thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? That okay, oh, maybe we need to touch you up a little. But if they're talking about like their deliverables, they're always late to deliver, or they're never at work on time. Those are serious issues. So then you have to be objective to say, in a very kind and subtle way, say, okay, maybe they have a point there, but it's your approaching those topics. So is that everything? But if it's something really lighthearted, life can't be too serious all the time. So make a joke and
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I think the bottom line at the end of the day is just showing support. That listen, I'm here to
yeah.
listen. I am here to, give you my full attention. I think that's also very key. While that person is sharing their heart, pouring their heart out, either if it's a big, medium size, or a very, very small issue, you give them the full attention that they deserve, right?
Yeah.
And you give them your ear. You're there to support all the necessary cues. So I think at the end of the day, that is one way of many to really show support where there is like that third party
Mm-hmm.
conflict situation around them.
Okay, so let me take it to another layer of this, because work seems so serious.
Yes.
So that that might be something that you really need to weigh where things are seriously.
Hmm.
But should this um conflict that this person is having be with their friends or with their parents, and it's
Right.
something that's really eating away at them, what would you do? I don't have a lot of friends, so it's difficult. It's difficult for me to say, this is what I say to, because I'm a very, very, like, I'm not very diplomatic. I think that's, let me just summarize myself as that. So I find that the friends that I've had, this is outside of, what's it called now, courtship or discovery. From my personal experience, because I'm not the very social person, I've never really had a lot of friends in my life. So I'm not used to people having conflicts with their friends. So from your viewpoint, what would you say the best approach is to deal with this, that they're not getting on with their friends, or something's happened that's just, strained the relationship, either with their friends or with their parents or whatever.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So let's focus on maybe friendship, for example, because yeah, they're very two different dynamics, aren't they? So you know, personally, I look at what the situation. Again, it always begins with, oh, the countenance, or you're not sounding yourself. What's going on, right? Obviously, that's always the show of support, the invitation to get him to get a look at what's bugging you, right? Are you
Mm-hmm.
with me so far? Right. Okay. Now, um, personally, and this is my own personal approach, if say when I was dating for example, came and said, oh, one of my friends, let's call her Betty, for example,
Mm-hmm.
Betty said something and Sharon heard something differently, and or for said something to Sharon that Betty shouldn't have said, and then what I'll need to do is just, again, like you said, understand the big picture. What exactly is going on here. And I guess when it comes to friendships, I am very cautious, right? Because one minute You ladies are fighting, right?
And you men?
And us men are on the outside. We're not really sure where we stand. And, it could happen in in 24 hours. You guys are
Mm-hmm.
best friends again. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm just trying to say is that um, I will definitely try and understand the dynamic very well. And I'll tell you this personally, when it comes to my wife's friends, when we were dating, I would only really probe and get deeper on matters that really got her to a point where she was so upset, that I just wanted to make sure that, because otherwise, I just let them flow, that's because that's what friends do. Let them
Exactly.
flow,
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's just really seeing how bad the situation is, how distraught, she
Okay.
is.
Let me throw a curveball on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, knowing how emotional most women are, most ladies are, you have somebody that you're courting, and you know that they have a habit of exaggerating a little bit when things happen to always favor them. So everybody else is always the bad person in any situation because they always try to play the victim. If you
Mm-hmm.
have that rather peculiar situation whereby you know the person you're dealing with, and you know that more often than not, any story they tell you about their upset, they probably brought it up a few notches to make them feel like they're the victim. How do you suggest that the partner start to deal with that? Because they give you, I know people who cry even though they were actually the villain in the situation, but when they're telling you what happened, they are all tears, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, someone did this to you. Someone. How do you encourage the partners to deal with that?
Yeah. Now, with a lot of wisdom and a lot of prayer, because if, say, one partner exaggerates a lot, situations, and they get very deeply, almost maybe traumatized by stuff, right? And maybe you've now, like you said, you've come to the realization that they do exaggerate a little bit, and I think, again, as we've always said, we look for the right opportunities, right, to then bring this to their attention. I think in an ideal world, if we were going to get anywhere with resolving the issue, it would be good for all the parties to be there. So her and a friend, maybe an opportunity, if the opportunity can be,
But
presented.
that seldom happens,
It
like you and
seldom
I
happens.
know.
It seldom happens. It seldom happens, But I think, if this person, the guy or the lady or the girl, is someone who exaggerates, and like you said, they're usually the villain, but they play the victim. And I think it's actually a bigger issue than just supporting them with the conflict, because there's a character issue there that needs to be really, really discussed, and we have to be very truthful, because it will translate into so many different other areas, isn't it? Because they're
Yes.
hurting. They don't
Yes.
want to. They may be the villain acting the victim, not by design, not because they wake up and they think, oh, it's a good idea to do so. It's probably them dealing with hurts, or being very protective of their feelings. You understand?
Or some other underlying issues that
Absolutely.
you're already getting some red alerts on,
Absolutely.
because they might be carrying around some sense of um, insecurity or whatever, that the only way to get attention is to play the victim. So it might be a cry for help in some
Absolutely.
shape. And this is why these things that, it might seem like they're lighthearted that we're talking about them, but these are avenues for partners to start seeing some telltale signs that could actually be giving you some signals about some other underlying things that nobody will voluntarily tell you, because nobody will voluntarily tell you I suffer from low self-esteem. It's in the attitude or their way of life that you start to see, oh, okay, why does this person behave like this when there's really no reason to do that? And so please know, like we've always emphasized on this platform, don't just bury your head into the physical attraction when you're in a relationship. There's more to a healthy and a long-lasting relationship than just the physical. Pay attention to all the telltale signs. So if you're picking up on such a vibe that this person just feels the need to play the victim all the time, even though when you get to the bottom of it, you find out otherwise, you need to start finding another smart or kind way to start broaching topics on how they can seek help. Don't just leave it and say, oh, well, it's not my problem. Oh, well, I'm sure they're grown up enough to deal with it. Because if those things are not sorted out, or at least just trying to draw their attention to the fact that maybe they need to look deeper, these things will come back and bite you when you guys get married. So please don't turn a blind eye when telltale signs are there. Because one of the reasons that we, Tolu and I, came together to start this platform was because of the brokenness that we've seen in a lot of marriages that we're surrounded by. And most of them got broken because of very simple things that could have been handled when they started to wriggle their heads, but they were literally swept under the carpet. And when by the time these things caught up with them, they become a monster in their own. A lot of us went through teething problems, for lack of a better expression, because when you're courting, you're individuals. You live in your own play, your own space. You're doing your own thing. If you have a misunderstanding, you zoom off and do your own thing. But when you're married, you're perpetually in each other's space. It's a different psychology. It's a different learning experience. So a lot of things that you probably didn't know about your partner, you start to find out because now you are in that space together. So you need to start looking at the fact that, okay, how do I start building a healthy and open relationship whereby if I'm seeing all the signals that seem rather alarming, we need to talk about that. Or what do you say to that, Atolu?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's that is the big issue, isn't it? That is the big issue. Healthy self-esteem is, the root, the root that is underneath the surface of a lot of the issues that we're talking about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure that we're addressing some of those roots, those fundamental issues, because otherwise, like you said, you can get into a relationship where you are, physically there's a lot of attraction and there's, it's pleasing and, even, nice for everyone, but behind the scenes, we don't want to be dealing with some, while there's attraction on the surface, there's some real ugly issues that,
Mm-hmm.
maybe are just being buried, and these things get worse over time if they're not dealt with. So I think you hit the nail on the head. You really did, and I think it's a good call. And I think when we do have our discussions with one another, and we want to call each other out with love, respect, and grace, but still directly call each other out, it's just so we can move on, we can develop, we can progress, right?
Yeah.
We can become better versions, because like you said, I think another beauty, another purpose of marriage and relationships is to sharpen each other, isn't it?
Yeah.
To sharpen each other and try and lift each other to new heights of character development. What do you think?
Yes, I think I alluded to that before, that we're supposed to bring out the best in each other. We're supposed to embellish what's already there.
Absolutely.
And just, make the other person look good, better than when you met them. You don't want to go into a relationship where you become their counselor, you become their mom, you become their dad, you become everything to them because they're very needy. And when all these telltale signs were there, you ignored them. And it will be very unfair if you've led the person on to believe I'll be all of these things to you, because you were just so inundated by the fact that I need to sweep this person off their feet because they're so fit, they're so hot, they're this, they're that, whatever vocabulary they use for bodies now, they've got all of that. I'm so old school, so I need to be careful before my daughter scold me that, Mom, that word is not, you don't say that. No, it's not. That word doesn't mean what you thought it meant. So wherever people say these days to kind of make each other feel like, they're all that. So yeah, please, like I said, we can't say it enough times. The physical attraction is very good, but it's only a very, very minute part of the whole relationship, because you need to think of the fact that when marriage comes in, you're going to start, you have to start looking at building a future together. Children will come into it, career will come into it, challenges will come into it. So if all you really built on was just the physical side, all of those other areas that really make the solid foundation will suffer. And the idea is for us, so having seen so many unnecessary divorces, we are trying to get younger people to look at these things that become monsters in marriages that needn't be. That you need to start talking about these things and start paying attention. Don't be so flippant about everything. Don't be the kind of person that doesn't care about anything. Everything is a joke. As I just said, sometimes you crack a joke to just make the person feel better about something really silly that's going on at work. But don't make everything about your relationship a joke. There's some areas that need to be discussed as serious matters. And that's why we've been taking our time to step through some of these things that people don't remember, so to speak, to talk about. They just assume, though, we'll go with the flow, everything will fall into place. No, some of these things you both have different ideas and different expectations. So if they're not matched, or at least if you don't start on the journey of trying to match them to make sure you have a common ground, they become issues of conflict when you start coming together and say, oh, this is what I thought. Oh, I thought we're going to do this. Well, of course you didn't discuss it. So everybody was thinking this was how things will go. And then things don't go like that, and it becomes another stress point. So please, without going on and on about the same thing, please talk, be honest, be open, and be very, very gentle with each other in expressing your feelings. And that is where I think I'm going to drop my mic today. So Tolu, your last words.
My last words, yes, just to echo exactly what you said. I think everything boils down to, like we always said, healthy relationships, healthy self-worth, self-esteem. I know those two words are not so interchangeable anymore, but how we see ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, how we, regard ourselves. I think identity is very, very key moving forward as individuals and as couples. And as only you said earlier on, just going back to to where we started, it's a good practice to ask the questions when people are, we're supporting, people we're in relationships with, check to see if, they're seeing the situation from an objective position, and yeah, just to make sure that we communicate with compassion, but with objectivity as well.
With firmness. It could be firm and passionate.
Absolutely.
It should be compassionate and firm.
Yes,
Both
you can be. Absolutely.
So please, let's not assume that because I'm firm, it means I'm mean. No, because sometimes you need firmness. Even the Bible says open rebuke is better than secret love.
Absolutely.
It's telling us that there are times that you really need to tell somebody off. And there are times that you just, instead of you hiding it, even, and just without sounding too spiritual here, even the Bible tells us that God only corrects the ones that he loves. So
tough love.
Exactly, God only corrects the ones. Says if he doesn't correct you, then you're a bastard. I'm sorry if it sounds like this is now harsh, but we need to understand that the principle of honesty, if someone is not behaving the way they should, is not something that you say, oh, I don't want to be too open. I don't want to be too honest about it. Oh, they're going to feel hurt. It's better they feel hurt now than for them to make a fool of themselves when they go into an open space and nobody's ever told them that you don't behave like that.
Absolutely.
So please be kind, but be firm. Be kind, but be honest. Be kind, but also remember that if you don't get this thing sorted while you're courting, they're going to become monsters in your relationship later on. So fight now.
Yes. I was just going to say, and you can quote us on that one. I mean, we don't want you to quote us on anything else, but that bit you can quote us.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Olu, as always, it's been absolute fun, talking about these things is refreshing. And, guys, as you listen, please, share the conversation.
Comments, please.
Send us some comments. we really need to hear from you guys. Make sure that we're providing the kind of value that is making impact in your lives. And what we would love to answer some questions at some point as well. So with that, I'd like to just encourage everyone to let's just all look after one another, right, Olu?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Remember, it's a journey. It's not a marathon. It is a journey.
Absolutely.
It's a journey that you take your time with and you're very honest about. So we wish you happy journey.
Yes.
And a wonderful time together for those who are already in that stage. And we look forward to having more conversations around those areas.
Absolutely. So until next time, from Olu.
Have a wonderful time.
Yeah, have a wonderful time from me as well. And be safe and healthy. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.